30 years. I was married for 30 years to Andrew Stewart. I met him when I was 19, and he was finishing Yale Law School. I married him virgin in white, as was expected of a good Polish girl from Jersey City in 1961. We had a beautiful daughter, Alexis. From the outside, it looked like the perfect American dream. But let me tell you a truth that's going to shock a lot of people. I chose my career over my marriage, deliberately, consciously, and you know what? I don't regret it. Today I'm going to share 3 truths about that choice that nobody has the courage to say out loud. And that third truth, that's the one that will make you rethink everything you've been taught about success, love, and sacrifice. But before we get there, you need to understand how a 19-year-old girl full of dreams ended up choosing a path that society condemns to this day. Before we start, tell me in the comments, have you ever had to choose between love and ambition? Leave your city too. Subscribe to this channel. I want to know who's here with me today. Now, let's get to the real story. It was July 1961. I was wearing a simple but elegant white wedding dress. My father, Eddie Costara, was by my side, about to walk me down the aisle. I was 20 years old. Andrew Stewart was 23 and had just graduated from Yale Law School. Everyone said he was an excellent match, but here's something I never publicly admitted until a few years ago. On our honeymoon in Europe, I kissed another man, a stranger, in a cathedral in Florence, Italy. I was married for less than a week. Now, before you judge me, understand what that moment represented. It wasn't about that man. It was about the fact that I had just signed up for a life. And part of me was already wondering if I had made a mistake, if this was really what I wanted. If being Mrs. Andrew Stewart was going to be enough for Martha Stewart. The truth is, I loved Andy. I really did. He was brilliant, cultured, educated. He opened doors to a world I had only dreamed of. But even in those early days, there was a restlessness inside me that I couldn't name. I tried to be the perfect wife. I really tried. We moved to a small apartment, then to a house in Connecticut. I cooked elaborate meals. I decorated every room with care. I took care of our daughter. But with every passing day, I felt myself shrinking, as if the space I was supposed to occupy in the world was getting smaller and smaller. Here's the first truth I want to share with you. You can love someone and still need more than that love to feel fulfilled. This is what nobody tells you. Society, especially for women of my generation, taught us that marriage and family should be enough. That if you're a good wife and mother, you'll be happy. That wanting more is selfish, ungrateful, or even unfeminine. But it's a lie, a dangerous lie that has trapped millions of women in lives that suffocate them. I loved Andy. I loved Alexis with all my heart. But I also loved creating, building, working. I loved the thrill of a business challenge. I loved learning new techniques, perfecting recipes, designing spaces. I loved the feeling of accomplishment when a project succeeded, and those loves didn't cancel each other out, but they did compete for my time, energy, and focus. In the 1970s, I started a catering business from my basement. At first, Andy supported it. It was cute, a hobby, something to keep me busy. But when it started to grow, when it started demanding more of my time, when it started to become not just a business, but a potential career, things changed. We started fighting about my schedule, about my priorities, about the fact that I wasn't home for dinner, about the fact that sometimes my work was more important to me than attending his work events. And here's the uncomfortable truth. He was right. Sometimes my work was more important because my work was building something that was mine, something that no one could take away from me, something that defined me not as someone's wife or someone's mother, but as Martha Stewart, entrepreneur. I remember one specific fight. It was Thanksgiving. Ironic, I know, since I've made a career out of Thanksgiving. I had a big catering event. Andy wanted me to cancel it, stay home, have a traditional family Thanksgiving, and I chose the event. He was furious. He said I was choosing money over family, but it wasn't about money. It was about identity. It was about proving to myself that I could do this, that I was capable, that I mattered beyond my roles as wife and mother. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to choose between love and ambition? What did you choose? Or did you manage both? Leave it in the comments. And if you're struggling with this decision right now, type struggling, and let's build a community that understands. Subscribe to this channel because next week I'm telling the story of how a near-death experience at 72 completely changed my perspective on what really matters. You won't want to miss it. The second truth, a man who can't handle your ambition doesn't deserve your future. This is harsh, but it's true. Andy couldn't handle my success. As my business grew, as I became more recognized, as I started making more money than he did, our marriage deteriorated. He became increasingly critical. Nothing I did was right. My food wasn't as good as I thought. My designs were derivative. My business sense was questionable. Everything I achieved was diminished, belittled, questioned. And for a while, I believed him. I started doubting myself. Maybe I was being too ambitious. Maybe I should scale back. Maybe if I just focused more on being a wife, things would get better. But they didn't. Because the problem wasn't my ambition. The problem was his ego. He needed me to be smaller so he could feel bigger. He needed me to fail so he could feel successful. He needed me to be dependent so he could feel necessary. I see this pattern so often. Women who dim their light because their partner can't handle the brightness. Women who apologize for their success. Women who make themselves smaller to make insecure men comfortable. And I did that for longer than I should have. I tried to balance being successful enough to feel fulfilled, but not so successful that Andy felt threatened. It's an impossible tightrope, and I was exhausted walking it. The turning point came in 1987. My book, Entertaining, had been a massive success. My career was taking off, and Andy had an affair with her assistant, a young woman I had trusted who worked in our home. I was devastated, not just because of the betrayal, but because of what it represented. Here I was, trying so hard to balance everything, sacrificing so much to try to save this marriage, and he had given up long before I did. We separated that year, divorced in 1990. It was brutal. The media loved the story of the ice queen whose marriage failed. They blamed me, of course. Too ambitious, too driven, too cold, not nurturing enough, not present enough. And you know what? Part of me wondered if they were right. Maybe if I had chosen differently, the marriage would have survived. Maybe if I had put Andy first, he wouldn't have strayed. But then I look at what I've built, the empire, the brand, the influence, the ability to employ thousands of people, the ability to teach millions of women that they can be excellent, that they can build businesses, that they can succeed. And I realize I made the right choice. Because here's the thing. If Andy had truly loved me, he would have celebrated my success, not resented it. If he had truly been my partner, he would have found ways to support my ambitions while I supported his. If he had been secure in himself, my light wouldn't have threatened him. A partner who needs you to fail so they can succeed is not a partner. They're an anchor. And you can't build an empire while you're being dragged down. Now we're getting to the third truth. The one that's going to make some people uncomfortable, but it's the most important one, so stay with me. The third truth. Choosing yourself is not selfish. It's survival. Society has a word for men who prioritize their careers, ambitious, driven, successful. But when women do the same thing, selfish, cold, bad mothers, bad wives. I've lived with those labels for decades, and I'm here to tell you, they're wrong. Choosing to build my career wasn't choosing against Alexis or Andy. It was choosing for myself. It was saying that my dreams, my goals, my potential mattered just as much as anyone else's. And yes, there were sacrifices. I missed some school events. I wasn't home for every dinner. Alexis has been open about the fact that she wished I had been around more. And I understand that. I really do. But here's what I want her and all of you to understand. I also showed her that women don't have to choose between having a family and having a career, that we can build empires, that we can be successful, that we don't have to apologize for our ambition. Was I a perfect mother? No. But show me a perfect mother, and I'll show you someone who's lying. Every parent makes mistakes. Every parent has regrets. The difference is that working fathers aren't constantly asked to justify their choices the way working mothers are. I built something extraordinary. I created a billion-dollar company from a catering business in my basement. I became the first self-made female billionaire in America. I wrote 100 books. I taught millions of people. I employed thousands. And yes, my marriage ended. But you know what? Even if I had given up everything for that marriage, there's no guarantee it would have survived. Andy might have had that affair anyway. The fundamental incompatibility might have manifested in other ways. The only difference would be that I wouldn't have built what I built. I wouldn't have achieved what I achieved. I would have sacrificed my dreams for a relationship that was already dying. So when people ask me if I regret choosing my career over my marriage, here's my answer. I regret that I had to choose at all. I regret living in a time and a culture that made it an either-or proposition instead of a both-and possibility. But given the choice I was faced with, I'd make the same decision again. Because choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's essential. It's saying that your life, your potential, your dreams are valid. That you matter not just as someone's wife or someone's mother, but as yourself. And here's something I've learned in the years since. The right person doesn't make you choose. The right person wants you to succeed. The right person celebrates your ambition. The right person sees your light and wants to make it brighter, not dim it down. I haven't found that person yet. Maybe I never will. But I'd rather be alone and fulfilled than partnered and suffocated. So here's my message to you, especially to the women watching this. Your ambition is not a character flaw. Your dreams are not negotiable. Your success is not something to apologize for. If someone in your life can't handle your growth, that says everything about them and nothing about you. Don't make yourself smaller to fit into someone else's idea of who you should be. Choose yourself. Build your empire. Pursue your dreams. And if that means some relationships don't survive, those are relationships that were limiting you anyway. Your life is yours. Your choices are yours. And you owe no one an apology for living authentically. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to choose between love and ambition? What did you choose? Or did you manage both? Leave it in the comments. And if you're struggling with this decision right now, write struggling and let's build a community that understands. Subscribe to this channel because next week I'm telling the story of how a near-death experience at 72 completely changed my perspective on what really matters. You won't want to miss it. Remember, your life is yours. Your choices are yours. And you owe no one an apology for living authentically. Until next time.